This is a short place profile of Toxteth, looking at the characteristics of Toxteth, the characteristics of place, how they've changed over time due to the shifting flows of investment ideas and people into Toxteth. Toxteth was once, as can be seen on the map on the bottom left, a small village on the outskirts of Liverpool. But as Liverpool grew through increased urbanisation, Toxteth became part of the inner city, and a typical street is a picture on the right there, terraced housing, many of which are boarded up. So these images continue the built environment. You can see that we've got lots of terraced houses, minimal space for parking. Other features of the built environment include various buildings of different religions, such as mosques and synagogues, and ethnic retailers, which mirror the demographic of the area and show how the demographic has changed. As people have moved and migrated into the area, then that has resulted in a changing built environment. Much of the housing is run down, and there is a high amount of social housing in the area too. There's limited amounts, you could say, on the natural environment. There is a park, Sefton Park, but this is an urban area. So perhaps it leads us to the conclusion that natural characteristics do not define Toxteth perhaps as well as the built environment does. The demographic profile of Toxteth, we can see there's a range of different things here, a range of different ethnicities, which is indicative of inward migration, around about 86% white population, but people have moved into the area. Education and qualifications, you can see that there is a small number of people with degrees or professional qualifications, but there is a large number of people with no GCSEs, so limited qualifications. That will, of course, have implications for the socio-economic profile, as the people with limited qualifications may well access lower paid jobs. The demographic of the area, further shown by the ages, people between 18 to 24, 15%. There's a high number of people 18 to 24, as many people in this area are renting homes whilst they attend the universities in Liverpool. Socioeconomic profile, 27% of people over 16 have no formal qualifications. As we've said, that can have implications for economic prosperity further down the line. Housing tenure, so that keyword housing tenure, mostly rented. Only 24% of people own their own homes. There have, of course, been stories about streets of houses where the houses have sold for £1, though people have had to prove they've had enough money to redevelop the homes and then commit to living in those homes. And that was a way in which Liverpool thought that it could regenerate the community around Toxteth. 54% of people have access to a car, which is lower than the national average, so you could use that piece of information to conclude that people in Toxteth are perhaps less wealthy than the national average. Or perhaps you could conclude that because it's a city, there are good public transport links and less people want to own a car. Cultural profile of Toxteth is very rich and varied. 14% Hindu, 68.6% Christian. Lots of festivals come around because of that, of course. There's a variety of restaurants and takeaways with food from different cultures. And that's reflected in the built environment, as you can see the number and range of different takeaway and food shops, as well, of course, as the religious buildings, the mosques and the synagogues that reflect the cultural profile. Political profile of Toxteth, it's made up of part of the Riverside Ward, part of the Liverpool City Council. There has, of course, been political unrest within the area. The 1981 riots are one example of that. Toxteth has not remained constant throughout its time. It has changed. There have been shifting flows. So there has been investment that has flowed into Toxteth. The investment has improved the built environment of the place profile. And some examples of that include the Tate Liverpool, which opened in 1988. That improved the built environment of the Albert Dock area. But it also improved the socio-economic aspect of the place profile as it brought in tourists, it created jobs and prompted a multiplier effect. Migration has, of course, changed the demographic profile of the area. People have moved in from Hong Kong, West Africa and the Caribbean, and so the demographic has changed from mainly white British to what it is now at 78.6% white people. Knowledge economy, that's an idea the idea has changed the profile of Toxteth. So the shifting flow is this idea that's come in. And they've opened up a science park in 2003 to create these high-paying jobs in the growing knowledge economy to improve the socio-economic aspect of the place profile. One key idea that was a shifting flow within Toxteth was the Baltic Triangle. So this was the idea to change the economy of the area to the knowledge-led economy. And this then led to investment, which changed the built environment. You can see in the images here, this Google image search, that old warehouses have been transformed into trendy bars, which in turn attract a young demographic. So the flow of investment has changed the place profile, it's changed the built environment, it's changed the demographic, it's changed the socio-economic profile. It's aimed to attract knowledge economy businesses, startup companies, web design companies. Of course, there have been shifting flows out of Toxteth as well. Toxteth was originally an area of large villas where the dock owners many, many years ago lived. But as Liverpool became larger, as people migrated there to seek work in the docks, the wealthy people moved out of what is Toxteth. The loss of employment led to the 1981 riots. Containerization, all these containers that move our stuff around the world. They transported around the world on large ships. These large ships couldn't get to the Toxteth docks, so the industry moved out. The socio-economic place profile changed. So the flow of industry out of Toxteth changed the socio-economic place profile. Of course, after the wealthy people moved out of Toxteth, it changed the demographic and socio-economic profile of the place as well.